I'm Erin Darcy. I'm certified in embodied processing and clinical hypnosis. Today, we're doing an interview, a special talk on being our unique selves, our authentic selves, fully accepting ourselves. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Erin, for having me again. It is a pleasure. My name is Beenish. I come from Pakistan. I am currently based in Australia and I work as a counselor, a coach, and a therapist. Just like you, I am certified in embodied processing and working with the felt sense of the body is my domain. And the topic that you have just introduced, authenticity, accepting our unique self, that's something very, very close to my heart. And I think once we are able to do that, a lot of our problems get resolved, not just solved, but resolved as if they did not exist.
Thank you. And what are some of your personal inner strengths?
So I think I am still learning to find out. But I would say connectivity, the gifts that I was given that got lost along the way were the ability to feel, the ability to connect, the ability to relate, and the ability to know, and the curiosity to know it for myself, and also an inclination of not following a well-trodden path. That's what I can think of.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And why do you believe it's so terrifying for people just to be their authentic selves, to accept themselves?
I think as we grow up, we all go through experiences. It is just inevitable. And we kind of collect blocks on the way. And more than anything, I would simply call it forgetfulness, that we just get so lost in the experience, good or bad, that we just forget the purity or the innocence of, or the simplicity of who we are.
Okay.
We just tend to complicate. We just tend to take on burdens, and it's just part of the process that we don't know how to process or digest an experience. And then that leads on to suffering. And when the suffering becomes too much, it's only then that we think about processing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Whereas if we started to process it right from the start, it'd be a lot easier. And if we can do this with our children as they grow and help them process their pain along the way, because most children will experience some type of pain as they grow.
Yes.
We're all going to go through difficult times. And if we can teach our children to do it as it's happening, instead of pushing it down, and having to deal with it as an adult, it's easier. And how can mothers send an authentic example on how to embrace themselves, how to be authentic, how to put up boundaries, and be vulnerable.
I agree with you. As you said, it reminded me of the poor Mate that, life will give our children experiences that will be painful, but that doesn't mean that we have to contribute to that pain. So, of course, as a mother or as a parent, if we have healed our pain, and if we have digested our emotions to an extent, if we have processed our suffering, then of course we are providing them, our children, with the environment which is much better than the environment which creates, like, more suffering and more pain for them. So, it will be, I don't know if we will say that easier, because of course, I believe that suffering is the way to liberation, but it could be faster,
Okay, thank you. And
if
even
they are,
like, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so just like a tree growing up. So, if it's provided with the environment, it will grow to become stronger rather
And what would
than,
be some
and if it is.
examples parents can do?
So going back to your question earlier, that, how the boundary setting and what was the other thing that you
Being
said?
vulnerable. So
Vulnerable at the
showing their
same time.
emotions.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so I have personally uh, been a little wary of the word boundaries when it comes to parenting. But one thing that I have centered, or I have tried to hold on to, is that if I'm living in fear or if I'm living in love, anything that I do out of love, boundaries take care of themselves. So if a parent can love fearlessly, you don't have to create all these rules and regulations and um, um, boundaries, so to say, for themselves and for the kids. If a mother is able to, like, live her life out of love, for example, if she is unhappy in a relationship, she leaves for the sake of love. If she is building a family or a relation with a partner, that is done out of love, not out of fear of being lonely or fear of being shamed by the society or fear of being rejected if she is not able to please someone. Um, so, any action that is taken out of love is courageous. And that is the kind of example that I would like to set for my kids, living
Right?
from the place of love instead of fear.
Makes sense in being authentic. And
Yes,
I
yes.
think too, kids need structure, and have your no actually be no, and your yes be yes, and having a come from, like you said, an authentic place. And speaking about emotions, so if you're feeling sad or if you're feeling angry, I allow it. Doesn't mean you have to take it out on the child. I don't mean that. But say, like,
Mm,
I'm feeling angry.
mm,
I'm feeling sad today. And I don't mean, again, and I need support here. Please help me. This is just
mm,
matter of fact, this is how I'm feeling today.
mm, mm, mm.
And how are you
Absolutely.
feeling?
Mm,
Right? What emotions are you
mm,
feeling? Oh,
mm,
you're feeling sad? It's okay to feel sad. And what can I do to help you? Do you
mm,
need a hug? but not that it's okay. You don't want to feel sad. It's you're feeling sad. What do you need? What are your needs? So it's giving them empathy, teaching them how to be empathetic by giving by example, but also allowing all emotions to come. You feeling angry? What does that
Yes,
feel like in the
absolutely.
body?
Yes, yes, yes. And I think before we can pass it on to our kids, it's important to learn it for ourselves.
So important.
If we are if we are able to allow ourselves to be angry, ashamed, fearful, frustrated, sometimes annoying, sometimes needy, that is the only way we can accept that in our children. And when if a child shows up that particular emotion, we know that that is very natural for them to have that need. Instead of judging them or instead of getting annoyed at them or instead of punishing them, we respond in that moment because their anger, their tantrum, or their need to be looked after is acceptable because we have accepted those needs in ourselves. We don't judge ourselves for having those needs. So we don't end up judging our children for having those needs. Then again, if you know the no that you were talking about, again, I would say that the no has to come out of love. You know,
Exactly.
okay, you've had one ice cream and you cannot have the second one. So
Mhm.
that no is coming out of love.
No, you cannot stay up to midnight. No,
Yes,
you cannot watch hours of
yes,
TV. This is coming from a
yes,
place of love.
yes,
Because if
yes.
we allow our
As
kids to do
mm,
whatever, eat whatever, how much ever, have
mm,
access, have unlimited toys,
mm.
that is not coming from a
That
place of
means,
love.
yeah, not at all, because that means that we have not accepted or integrated our power or to be like, responsible for something. That means
And
where we are shying away from taking responsibility. Or maybe
exactly,
sometimes, I'm too tired to
exactly.
like, and I let my kid have like, 12 hours of screen. I give up sometimes, but I have to understand that it is not my child. I'm not doing it out of love. I am doing it because in that moment, I did not have the strength to tell him that no, this is not good for you.
And it's also showing ourselves compassion because none of us are perfect. We're all going to have our
No,
moments,
Diana.
but it's
Yes.
being self-reflective of why we're doing this. What's
Yes.
the reason
Yes.
behind it?
Yes.
And what are some ways that parents accidentally shut down a girl's authenticity, being authentic?
Um, for my personal example, and I think more either it could I don't know if how different it is for a boy or a girl, to be honest, but I think when parents refuse to acknowledge the uniqueness of the child, um, that and they want them or they fear for them that if they don't follow a certain path, they will fail or end up having troubles in their life, and they don't encourage them or uh, kind of ignite the flame in them to be curious about what they really want and kind of suppress their authenticity. And number two, it could also be, which can get very confusing, that, sometimes like a parent might have wanted something different for themselves. And consequently, they have not been able to accomplish that dream. And they can just like put it over the child.
Push it on their child. For example,
And
sports
yeah, so, the
or
child might
school.
not be interested in sports at all. The
Hmm.
child might be interested in academics.
Hmm.
But the parent might feel that since I was not given the opportunity, I should give my child the push to become sporty. So the parent actually wants to live their own dream through the child.
Or excel. They want
And
their
at a
kid to
very,
be number one athlete
yes,
at all
yeah.
costs.
Mhm.
Or same as education. Education is critical, but not to the point that we're putting so much pressure on our kids that it's emotionally impacting them long term. There's a balance
Yeah.
in everything. Teaching your child to be active, to be involved in sports, to take school serious is all important, but not too extreme, right? It's balancing and understanding where is this coming from? Why am I wanting this? How is my child being impacted by this? Noticing how they're impacting. And like even with my child, she's 4. God is important to me.
Mhm.
I obviously want her, my child, for her faith to be important. This comes very natural to her. She randomly will ask, without me bringing up, if she can go to church. She just asked the other day if she can go to church with Papa. She randomly wants to pray without me even mentioning anything. On a
Mhm.
semi-regular basis, she asks me randomly, can we go to church? And we go to church every week. But I'm very aware that this is good. But I'm also very
Mhm.
aware that I am not going to push this on her. So I
Mhm.
encourage it 100%. But if I push and I push and I push too much, it could turn her against.
Mhm.
So
I think
it's
this is.
something that's important to me, but
Mhm.
it's encouraging. And say if I'm praying and she doesn't want to come over and pray that moment, I'm not going to say, and you have to come over right now and pray,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
It's allowing her to come and encouraging and supporting.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
I, yes, yes, definitely, because I think that it requires a great deal of self-awareness that your role is to provide the environment, but not like push anything to become who they're not. So, um, that awareness that your efforts are not coming out of a personal agenda.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You are kind of, your role is that of an incubator. You provide everything, but also with a sense that they will grow up to become who they're meant to be,
And we
rather
want
than
them
being
to be
suppressed.
their authentic self. That is who they're created to be.
Yes,
And
yes.
that's
And I
which
trust the process that, hmm,
exactly. And if we can be our authentic self, and that doesn't mean we allow our kids to get away with whatever they happens, and which that's their authentic self. Rules and structure and accountability is critical because if we don't hold our children to do that as adults, they were not hold accountability. They were not have structure. They were struggle severely in life. So this is all important
yeah,
stuff. But
hmm,
noticing when they want to
all
be authentic. Like my child, she will wear a Viking hat to school. And she'll wear it all
hmm,
day long. Or the next day she might want to wear a princess outfit. And guess what? I'm going to allow it. And the teacher allows it, right? But again, not many kids want to wear a Viking hat to school. but that's her. So all the power to her,
Yes.
because I think to myself, is this going to hurt her? Is this going to hurt anyone else? How is this impacting? It's not. So go for it.
That's that's true. I've got two boys, and both of them are so different from each other. And I think that they have been my universities. I have learned so much about authenticity from them. And I try to, remain in that place where now I'm not imposing my personal choices on them. One of my child is a bookworm and he would love to read. Now, kids who read are put on a pedestal in the society. Now I get the other one who has never been close to books. Even when he was like 1 year old, 2 year old, he would just not be interested. Now he is interested in building blocks and playing games, but that's who he is. I cannot compare apples with lemons. That is something that I always need to remember.
Because exactly, even growing up in the same home, we're going to be different. My sisters and I, very different. We look very different, personality, everything very different. But it's meeting the individual
Mm,
child and looking at what their needs are, because we're all
yes.
individual
Mm.
and we all have our needs. And how can a parent help a child to feel into their anger, to understand what their core values, boundaries, and authentic needs actually are?
First of all, not punishing them for being angry. Not so the anger as an emotion will come to a child anyways. Some child, I think, some children might feel it more than the others, but it's just very natural for the anger to arise in a child. How do you respond? You might, not be in a mood in that specific moment, and you might, you know, react, which is okay. But one thing that I know, after the storm has settled between both of you, the child with all their emotions is still as much loved and as much acceptable to you. I think that what it is, what lays path for the child, that yes, even if I get angry, I'm still lovable. My mother or my father, the adult I'm living with, is not going to punish me. They're not going to abandon me, even for an hour, even for 10 minutes. You stay with the child in their emotion.
Thank you. And how can we tell we are being authentic and learn to know our core self and self accept ourself? How does God play a role in this?
There is no short answer to this, I think, at least for me. But this is a process, finding your authentic self, finding your sweet, unique, authentic self. I think this is a process. And God is, and God is there at every step. For example, when you tend to lose your authenticity, when you're building your belief systems, you're building your identity, even when you're building your likes and dislikes about yourself. And then there comes a point when you suffer. So that is, the process. So God has been there all along. And then you suffer, and then you look for a relief or the answers to your questions, that what has gone wrong? Why is everything triggering for me? Why am I unable to cope? And then what is the calling? You need a source to return to. You
Mhm.
could call it a resource. You could call it your own center. You could become meditative, and you could call it finding yourself. Or you could do it through prayer, through devotion to someone who is outside of you, much larger, much grander, but outside of you. So any approach you take, you're basically answering to the calling that you have to return to the source.
Mhm. And I
So,
know, sorry, go ahead.
so God is the only one who's creating this experience for you. And once you find your authenticity, I think there are a million ways to express it.
Mhm. And it's steps, it's growing. Then body processing going into the body can significantly help. And it's also learning what your triggers are and what your authentic self are. And so starting to learn to identify the triggers and look at them and become curious about them. Recently,
Yes.
I've been exploring this topic myself. And recently, I have been doing embodied somatic prayers. And I
Mhm.
love it. I find it healing. What I do is I close my eyes, and if everyone would like to do it with me, you can close your eyes if you're sitting or kneeling, and you just go into the body. If your mind starts to race, just bring it back into your body and notice what's happening. And
Mhm.
notice any sensations, any emotions, if there's any pain, and just simply notice. I know everything is welcome.
Mhm.
And then if anything comes up, I simply say, God, help me. And then I bring myself back into my body
Mhm.
and just notice what's happening. So if anything comes up, I just say, God, help me.
Mhm. Mhm.
And just embodying the prayer and noticing when you're praying what's happening in your body. So that's taking
Yes.
it from your mind into your body.
Yes. Yeah.
And when you're going into your body, you're you can be tapping into your subconscious, and things can come up when you're not always aware, and just giving it to God. And I've just recently started doing this and I find it healing.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful practice. Yeah, I can totally relate to it and 100% agree with it. That, uh, like the prayer has to be very devotional and it has to be felt in the body. It's not something that you do with your mind. And the body does not lie. How you feel, if you're feeling, you can feel the presence of God when you feel held.
Mhm. Because I believe
Mhm.
God is also part of of healing. I mean, you have to do all of the healing work you can do and then give it over to God and allow him to do the rest. How can being authentic make us more aligned with God's purpose for our own life, and which will give us a sense of peace and purpose?
What I have come to realize is that God uh, expresses himself through each individual, and our uniqueness, our authenticity is in one way or the other the divine expression.
Mhm. I think
So
so. He meets us where
yeah,
we are
so
because we're all different. We're all authentic.
we are, yes. And he doesn't, like, in existence, I think, like, nothing is created as a replica of the other. No two faces are the same, no DNA is the same, no two flowers are exactly the same. They are not replicas. So God enjoys it when,
We're
we
his creation.
kind of
He made us all different.
bloom.
And we
Yes,
can
we
learn.
bloom.
from each other when we're all different and grow because we're different. And that's the beauty of it.
That's the what this uniqueness, this individuality, this makes the world beautiful. You know, if humans were to make other humans, we would all be robots, just looking like each other, following each other. And authenticity has to be trusted.
It
You
takes
know,
time. It
being
takes
present
it takes time. It
doesn't
takes
mean
confidence to really embrace yourself. It's baby steps, but it's asking yourself, is it worth it? Because at the end of your life, do you want to know you lived your authentic self? And when you're your authentic self, you attract people that are real connections. When you're not your authentic self, it's not real because you're not being real. It's being honest with yourself and then being honest with others. Because and then if they can be authentic and you can be authentic, that is where beautiful connections can happen. And mhm,
I think authenticity should not be feared. We shouldn't be afraid of being authentic. This is something to look forward to. Authenticity is what makes this world beautiful. That is what the divine wants. That is how the divine expresses. We cannot be replicas. It will be very boring. So we we resist being authentic, and because
because we
you know
want to fit in.
it's yes, we want, because we're afraid, you know.
Mhm.
And the other thing is that, you know, copying other people or follow or walking the well-trodden path is easier. It seems easier, but we get stuck after a little while because that's not natural. Authenticity is natural.
It's true. Echo.
Authentic. Yes.
And it's
Yes.
like the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is being authentic
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
being real.
Hmm.
And
And I'd like to share here, Erin, that I've spoken to some very high achieving individuals who are not happy with their lives. Apparently, outwardly, they've got everything, but they feel stuck. And after, like having some conversations with them, it becomes clearer that they are not living their authentic selves. They have been in self-denial.
I believe it.
Whatever they have done so far, or whatever they have achieved so far, was something that they were handed over. They did not really want to do it. You can be like, you know, very, very small, living a very ordinary life, but still be authentic, or you could live and you could be extraordinarily successful, yet um, feel miserable inside because that's not who you are.
Mhm. And I also believe like this mini series is very much about empowering women.
Mhm.
And women, I've mentioned some very strong women that I even know. And we can be powerhouses, but God is way more strong. And personally, I believe when we are weak, He makes us strong.
Yes, absolutely.
And
I
it's
would.
giving our weakness and our pain and our suffering to God that can raise us up
Mm.
and
The
giving it
more
from,
we feel separate,
sorry?
the more the sense of separation, you know, it's the connection with the divine that makes us stronger. A separate self does not feel strong. The separate self is always threatened. It's your connection with the divine that gives you all the power that you need in the end. The more connected you feel, the power comes from the divine.
I agree.
So in some cultures we say almighty. Yes, that is the source of power. So your connection to the whole, to the divine, or to God is what is making you powerful. A separate person, an individual person, and a personality does not feel powerful enough. That individual self is always going to be afraid, that's always going to be feeling threatened by one thing or the other, by pain of the past or fear of the future. But the more you're connected, you feel connected to the divine. That's where power comes from.
Well, we're on his path. The more authentic we are, the more we are aligned with his will. And the more of an example we can set for our own children, because he gave us those particular children to guide and direct throughout their life. And so it's just tapping in and taking moments every day, even a few silent moments, and going into the body, then bringing your mind is clear, and going into your emotions and bringing them together. And that is what brings reason, and then bringing it to prayer and noticing what's happening in your body when you are praying, and just taking time. I find I've slowed down a lot, and when you go, 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 it's you're not always aligned with what
You're
God is
always in the
calling you to
head.
do.
Mm.
Right? It's slowing down. Even if, like, I know as a mother, it is extremely busy. Um, but just even taking a few moments a day, a
Mm.
few silent moments a day. And if you do that over a year, imagine what the difference there will be.
Mm.
So thank you so much for joining. It was an
Thank you
honor to
so
have
much
you.
for having me here. Yes, it was a very interesting conversation. Thank you very much
And I
for holding.
encourage everyone watching today, start to becoming curious who you are. Who's your authentic self? And take a few moments every day to just self-reflect and just go into the body. The mind is clear and calm. Bring it together and just start to notice what's happening in your own life. And if you want, you can bring it to prayer. That's up to you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. It's at 12 o'clock here, midnight. And what time is it over there?
2 p.m.
2 p.m.
Sydney time.
2 p.m. And
Yeah.
it's almost Canada Day. So for all my Canadians, I hope you have a great Canada Day.
Right. Happy Canada Day, folks. Okay. All right. Thanks, Erin.
Thank you.
Have a lovely night.
You
Bye
too.
bye.